Yes, War on Culture, Volume 1, Episode 1. Big things are going on now. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a show dedicated to the underprivileged and undereducated, but are never overlooked and undervalued. All we want to do is give you a new perspective on maybe a couple things and possibly enlighten you in ways that you can expand your financial future for yourself, your family, your community. So we got a couple things I would like to bring up. Today's topic, of course, we're going to talk about generational wealth. We're going to have a little prayer with y'all because I am a God-fearing man. I am a follower of Christ. And I just want to share a couple things with y'all, see how you like it, how we take it from there. So what I'm going to start with today is two different Bible verses. And it's just a context that the Bible will tell you of how to think of wealth. So when we talk about generational wealth, what are the first things that come to your mind? And from a biblical perspective, there's a lot of different ways to acquire wealth and what wealth truly is. So the first verse comes from Psalms 49:10, and it reads, "For all can see that the wise die, that the foolish and the senseless also perish, leaving their wealth to others." Think about that. And now the next reading that we're going to take is also from Psalms. It's another word from God just to give you a biblical perspective of what wealth could mean for you. So the second one is Psalms 112 verse 3. And it says, "Wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endureth forever." Glory to God on that one. So when we think about generational wealth, when we talk about generational wealth, what are some of the things that come to your mind, right? The definition for generational wealth, just so that if you're thinking it's one thing and you're confused about what it might be, what it actually is generational wealth refers to financial assets that are passed down through families to children, grandchildren, and beyond. It's a lot to think about, right? I mean, you can't give your whole shoe collection and your Gucci belts and your Fendi glasses and your ice. You can't give that to your kids, right? And like, if you don't have nothing to pass on, how would that ever work for you? Money in your shoebox ain't good enough, brother. You know what I'm saying? A couple $1,000s in your bank account ain't enough, my sister. There's got to be something that you pass on that you'll be able to leave to them. And especially in our culture, we don't think about that. We just make sure that people live good for now. We gotta think about the future. And another way to kind of look at it is by having financial freedom. Now people think, oh, I got some bread, so I got financial freedom. I can do what I feel like. I'll go over here, I'll spend, I'll do that. That's not really what it means. That's your version of it. I like it, I can't lie. But what it actually means is financial freedom means to get to make the decisions without being overly stressed about the financial fallout of those decisions. Having enough money to not work and to try new things without the fear of not having money. So that's pretty big. Those things are pretty big as far as the way you look at our culture sets up our minds to be generationally and financially free. Because it's not about you, it's not about your kids, it's about your grandkids. You're hoping to be around for them, right? You want to leave a legacy. You wouldn't want your grandkids, after you and your kids been here for all these years, to not be able to have nothing. Some of you, that's the way that we've all lived. I don't have nothing like that. My grandpeople ain't leave me no inheritance. God bless their soul, you know what I mean? So at times, we have to think about these things. And when you're young and you have all this money that you don't know where to put, you don't know what an asset is, what a liability is, you're just gonna end up blowing that money. Money in a shoebox, money under a mattress, money at your mama house, money in a stash is not building you anything. That's not an asset. The cash factor of the availability is, but just that by itself, no. You gotta come a little bit more correct than that. So in order to do that, we kind of have to, examine how we think about things. right? What is an asset? What is a liability? You know what I mean? What are these things that we talk about? So that way you can clearly get a picture and not be confused, right? So an asset is defined as any resource owned or controlled by a business or an economic entity. It is anything tangible or intangible that can be used to produce positive economic value. Assets represent value of ownership that can be converted into cash, even though cash is an asset, right? So again, an asset is any resource owned or controlled by a business or an economic entity. It is anything tangible or intangible that can be used to produce positive economic value. Assets represent a value of ownership that can be converted into cash. Hopefully you followed along. These are all just the definitions of them. There are many different forms of assets, generational wealth. We'll get into that in a little bit. Second point I wanted y'all to kind of learn about is what a liability is. So some people think, oh, liability is just my brethren. Oh, my homegirl, she's a liability because she's always drunk when I bring her out and she always be up on these guys' face. That's not what it means. Oh, my dog, he's be pillow talking and, the man, you can't tell him nothing. It's not really how it goes. A liability now is something a person or company owes. Usually it's a sum of money, but liabilities are settled over time through transfer of economic benefits, including money, goods, or services. So a liability essentially is stuff you owe on. Like, a lot of people think, oh, dude bought a house. He's blessed. He's rich. He's up. Well, technically, if you didn't finish paying for that, that house is now a liability because you owe money on that. So yes, you put down your down payment, but you didn't buy that house. It's $1 million, homie. Yeah, we know you had a good couple of months, a good couple of years. I'd be hard pressed to believe you bought your house cash out, right? That'd be very hard to do. So if you did it and you put a down payment in, you don't own that. That is now a liability because you owe money on that. If you can't pay for your house, they're gonna take it from you. Then you're gonna owe that money. So unless that house is being able to make you some kind of money, where you're renting it out or you're selling it for above cost, guaranteed, and that could be a liability for you, man. And it's just these little things here that we don't see enough of in our culture. We don't talk about it enough. We just assume stuff. Be like, oh, the Mayut's doing good. He's up. Yeah, don't even worry about him. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he's blessed. Like, it might not always be like that. And in order for you to define what your financial freedoms are and how for you to get it, you got to have a better understanding of what these things are, right? So I'm going to cover some little brief, quick things of what some examples of generational wealth would be, and just try to imagine yourself being able to acquire these things. You know what I mean? Through whatever avenues you're into. I'm not going to sit here and profess to you like the street life is something that is to be looked for or look forward to. I mean, because I'm an ex-convict myself. I recently gave my life back to Christ, and I spent years in the dirt doing nothing, being dragged through the mud, thinking that this is where I needed to be. Never wanted to understand anything, didn't want to read anything. I just wanted to be left alone with my own sorrows and my own pain and my own faults. And I regret it every day. The only thing I don't regret is the fact that the Most High has given me opportunities to now be able to try and help people and at least try to steer people out of the direction of doing something stupid, right? So we want to make good decisions here on War on Culture, you know what I'm saying? The culture will tell you make a dumb decision. Throw your life away. That's a good decision for the culture, right? Because nobody cares. We're outside. Yeah, have fun. Yeah. All right, whatever. So, some examples of generational wealth would definitely be not limited to, but they are some things. it would be providing money for a down payment for a house or property, right? So that would be a way that you would be able to provide generational wealth. You would provide money for a down payment for them, not for yourself, for your children or grandchildren or beyond. That's when the generational wealth starts, right? The next generation. Another example of generational wealth for you could be funding a child's tuition or education. That's an interesting one. A lot of people aren't thinking to put their children in a position to be able to do better by keeping them out of the decisions they had to make. Everybody just wants to get a whole bunch of money really, really, really fast and give it to their kids so their kids don't never have to do anything. 9 times out of 10, because you didn't teach your kids anything and you didn't teach them to leave generational wealth, they're going to go broke with your money. Be careful with them kind of behavior there. Careful. So now, another example of generational wealth would be transferring ownership in a company or a business to a child or a grandchild. Again, you see how it's not about just you. It's not about your mama. It's not about your brother, your girl, your man, none of that. It's about those who are coming after you and what opportunities they will be able to gain from your life here on this earth, right? I know a lot of people want to die before these times ever happen. They just want to drink as much as they can, smoke all the weed, do all the drugs, and stay up late and party and travel. Boom! Drop out dead so they don't have to worry about it no more. It's kind of selfish. I think. You know what I'm saying? I think that kind of stuff is selfish. If you do care about your family, if you do have children, or you plan on having them and you care about them, these are definitely things you should consider. Because they can't live off of your shoe collection or your purse collection or your jewelry collection or your car collection, unless your cars are really, really expensive and you're willing to sell them for that asset, which is money. You know what I mean? Now, another example of generational wealth would be investing in assets that appreciate in value over time, such as housing or luxury goods, right? So I like the bust downs that y'all got. You've now depreciated the value of your Rolex by tampering with it like that. All them crushed, unless those diamonds are baguettes, then they can individually be plucked out, but that Rolex is probably going to depreciate in value, right? Now, if you purchased a Rolex to keep it for 10, 15 years, knowing that it's going to go up in value, that's generational wealth. I mean, the bust down is really nice. Don't get me wrong. I like it. But you're depreciating value in that, even though you just spent $40,000, $60,000 on that. Now it's going to depreciate in value because you done messed it up. You done had all this stuff put all on it, all them crushed diamonds and all that. You think you lit, right? Well, crushed diamonds have no resale value. They can only be carroted. So careful with that, right? That's not necessarily generational wealth. It looks good, though, I must say. A next thing. Now, this one is a little bit harder to put together for people, but it's still, just think about being able to have that availability. Is an inheritance. The bulk of generational wealth is passed down at death in the form of inheritance, which means all them OT trips, all them long nights and traveling this and in the kitchen and doing all this foolishness and working 2-3 jobs and being around people you can't stand to get somewhere. If when you die, that money that you just give them as an asset to say, here, bang, it's all for you. Big lump sum. Now you can buy a house. Now you can do all those things that I just mentioned. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're leaving behind that kind of inheritance for them to be able to do those types of things. What was it all for? Hopefully not for IG and Snap and TikTok. That don't look good, fam. That don't look good. Real talk. Now, there's other ways that you can break down that inheritance if you would like to. It's cash, it's stocks and bonds, it's inter vivo transfers, many different things. Now, these are all different terms in the financial world that if you don't know what they mean in 2023 and you're not willing to just type them in and read a couple articles on it to get your mind prepared for the real world, then what are you really doing, bro? Sis, you think it's just going to end with you getting to the bag every day and then you're just going to die with a whole bunch of money? A lot of people thought that that's possible. A lot of people swear that's possible. And hey, if you plan on dying tomorrow and you've already made your lump sum of money and everybody in your family is good and you don't really need nothing on this earth, I would encourage you to seek a closer walk with God, because that seems to be the only thing you're lacking. A lot of people lack things in life, but when it comes to generational wealth and financial freedom, those are things that our culture never dreams about. Never. I mean, it'd be nice to have money, right? But how much money? How long could you live off of that? And if it's just your life living off of that, and you have children, and they're gonna have children, and you wouldn't want to be able to provide for them, that's where our culture goes wrong. The selfish natures of our culture sometimes keep us from the glory that we're supposed to see. You know what I mean? It's not always about these intermittent parties and the people around you. They ain't gonna do nothing for you, man. Start putting your plan together for your life. Stop thinking that you have another 50 years. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't have enough by the time you die to leave people with enough for a down payment, and at least you were trying. People will respect your effort when you're dead and gone. You know what I'm saying? Everybody just wants a RIP t-shirt and people to cry and pull up for you when you're dead and gone. Why don't you make people say, well, you know what? The memory of this person's life was happy. They did a lot of things. They put toward things for their community, their family, that they will definitely see fruits from. Why don't you make, if you're gonna pass quick, if you're not gonna plan to be here, why don't you make your passing a little bit more pleasant for everybody, instead of leaving behind a whole bunch of people who thought you had so much potential and realize how much pain you were in. My God, that kind of stuff burns me, man. It seems like that's the bulk of our culture, is people who are left here toiling with the memory that you left them with of how you were doing good, but they still saw that pain in you because you were just living for you, waking up and drinking and doing all this stuff, and all these things that were so selfish. You could have put things in place for your others, the people who love you, the people who you claim you love, right? Selfishness is what stops our culture. It's selfish. Even when it comes to doing things for other people, sometimes that's a hard concept. A lot of us are like, I ain't doing nothing for nobody. Nobody did nothing for me. My dad, my mom never gave me nothing. I never had no grandfather. So them kind of people there, you have to stay away from them. That's the selfishness. Those are the same types of people who would rather die with money and not let nobody even know where it's at. These are the people that the culture promotes. These are the attitudes that the culture promotes. But do you promote that? Are you with that kind of idiotness? Like, you have to really check yourself sometime and really ask yourself, what am I doing here? What am I living for? And that's part of the war on culture. You have to war against these types of thoughts that Satan and the rest of the world and their ideologies will push on you to believe that, this is the way to go. Your treasures are here on earth, so just live and do your thing. If you read the word, if you really want me to go back to the specific verse in the Bible, Psalm 112:3 says, wealth and riches shall be in his house. Him, the matak, right? And his righteousness shall endure forever. So you think generational wealth is good? It's good. But make sure you're putting your wealth into the place where everybody that you know is going to enjoy it, which is where your seat is in heaven, by doing the right thing, by putting the right people on, by putting the right steps towards being that person in your family, in your community, that when you're not here, your name is, they're all happy to talk about you. Like, man, that person did so much for me and my family, and they know that you were in heaven because your good works here. was done in God's righteousness. You know what I'm saying? And you're smart. Yeah, I know it looks bleak out there. So you got to trap. You got to do what you got to do. You got to hustle to get the bread because you need this. You need it. I get it. I get it. Make sure you take the time to really build the real wealth, which is your relationship with God, which is your interactions and relationships with people in your community and around you. A lot of people want to be in their room and not talk to nobody unless they need something from you or they need to interact with you. Oh, I'm going out tonight, so I gotta talk to people, or I gotta go to work. So, can you imagine how selfish you'd have to be to think like that? You don't even want to help nobody. You don't want no help from nobody. You just want everybody to leave you alone. What do you, man? What kind of thing is that? What's wrong with you? Calm down. It's not that bad. I know people have done you wrong. I know. But you got to war against that type of thought. You got to war against those types of feelings. It's okay. You'll get there. You'll get there. You definitely will get there. But you got to have your attitude positive in order for you to get there. You know what I mean? So, a couple little pointers for a lot of y'all. If you're interested in finding out about what it would take to get a mortgage, or if you think you have some money and you want to get a down payment for a house, you want to start building your generational wealth, I'm going to leave a link in the description for a mortgage stress tool, which will help you pretty much assess what your finances really are and if you could even afford that house in the first place. Because it's one thing to put up a down payment and then you can't fulfill your payments on that house and that house becomes a liability. So this mortgage stress tool will help you calculate all your finances that goes around a mortgage. I'm going to leave a link in the description for you. Test that out. Doesn't matter how. If you really want help on how to, get into the mortgage brokerage field, leave a comment. Make sure you message me. Stay in contact, and I'll have someone reach out to you and put you in the right direction for that. We're actually going to cover a lot of different real estate points, mortgage brokerage points, a lot of different financial things we're going to cover over the time as the channel grows a little bit more. I got a lot of things lined up for y'all so that y'all could really, really, really sink your teeth in and get your ear in on the conversation that you need to be in on. Not about what some celebrity doing or what this basketball player just did or so who's in this club over there, who's beefing with. Man, who cares? All this UK man, them shut down. Brother, you're over here in this country worried about who? Come on, man. Did you see that? Really? Your mind right. You know what I mean? So to leave y'all with a couple things. A couple famous quotes about generational wealth that I came across that I found were really, really interesting. This first one is from an unknown author, I guess. I don't know what you would call him. But this first one says, wealthy people plan for 3 generations. Poor people plan for Saturday night. I can't lie, that one got me. I ain't gonna front on you. That one got me. Now these next two are by a man named Stephen Covey. I don't know him. I don't know nothing of his work. I'm not here professing any of his work or backing up nothing. I just think what he said is smart. And 2 different quotes. First thing he said is, I want my children to inherit land and businesses, not clothes and shoes. I don't know who he's talking to specifically. If I you, whoa. It's all right. Take time. And the second one is, your economic security does not lie in your job. It lies in your own power to produce, to think, to learn, to create, and to adapt. That's true financial independence. So, I hope that was all good for y'all for the first episode of War on Culture. You know what I mean? I hope that I was able to add some sort of insight, clarity, and give you kind of direction on where we're going in this whole channel and the things we're going to be doing. If you have any topics that you would love to hear about, please make sure you hit us up in the comments. Send me a message. I'm all over the place. Click like, subscribe, share. Make sure this gets the reach that it needs to, because we're trying to change the world over here. We're trying to make everybody who felt underprivileged, unappreciated, and felt like they couldn't do it, this is their only way. We're going to band together and make sure that we all make a way out of this. So thank you for tuning in to the Volume 1, Episode 1. I'll see y'all next time here on War on Culture. Wow!